There we go.
There we go. Aloha mai kako. It is 2:30 on the dot. I'm going to go ahead and call our meeting to order today of our Commission on the 13th Festival of Pacific Arts and Culture. I'm going to go ahead and start with our roll call to get us started. Chair is present and I am by myself. Vice Chair Salah.
Present and alone.
Commissioner Ani Benham.
I am present and I'm by myself. Present and I'm by myself.
And then Commissioner Bento.
Aloha, present by myself.
Commissioner De Silva.
Present, I'm here and I'm by myself, thank you.
Commissioner Hussey.
Present and here by myself.
Commissioner Lum.
Present and here by myself.
Commissioner Onishi.
Present and here by myself.
And I believe, there we go. And then Commissioner Keokalole.
Yo.
Perfect. Are you by yourself?
I am by myself, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, members. I'd like to go ahead and turn it over for our vihana to Commissioner Hussey today. Mahalo.
Aloha mai kako, commissioners, and to our listening audience. I just wanted to share in this opening, just this time of the year, between October and November is in between my parents' birthday. And now that they're gone, I become a little more melancholy, wistful, pensive, and certainly reflective at this time. And so I wanted to offer this afternoon, maybe some thoughts about kupuna wisdom during this time and during this time where we are in sort of our society and our spaces. There's a lot to be learned from our kupuna. They never separated knowledge, skill, and practice and always put things together, whether it's farming or fishing or healing, frugality, how to heal family discord or community issues. And so I thought about this weekend we lost in education Uncle Peter Hanohano, and we thought of the kupuna wisdom that he contributed to Native Hawaiian education as we were celebrating Uncle David Singh and his honor at the National Indian Education Association. And at the same time, what a joyous reunion Uncle Peter probably had with Auntie Verly there, and all the things that they were saying about, gun fun at those kids, what are they up to and how come they're not doing, their stuff with education. And so I think about our kupuna who literally are right next to us, who speak to us and who influence us. And I think about how sometimes there's too much white noise that maybe our social media or other things going on in our life prevent us from listening and hearing to them. So I offer this afternoon that as we exercise our responsibility as commissioners, that we really be quiet and listen to our kupuna as they guide us in these really important decisions that we have kuleana for. So I offer that this afternoon. Mahalo.
Mahalo for that. I couldn't think about that. I mean, it was so perfect. I was just watching, there's a lot of discussion happening right now in Tahiti around tourism development. And actually they had highlighted kupuna voices as well on Mo'orea in this topic. And so how timely is that? And I think it's just a great reminder for us. So mahalo for that. Also want to listen and move on to agenda item number 2. If there's any public testimony and if anybody would like to testify now, please go ahead and unmute and turn on your video and let us know. We did not receive any public testimony prior to today's meeting. Going once, twice, third time's the charm. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on. I'd like to move on to agenda item number 3 and entertain a motion to approve the October 11th meeting minutes.
I'd like to move for approval, Chair.
Okay, it's been moved. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any discussion, members? Hearing no discussion, I'll go ahead and conduct a roll call vote. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair?
Aye.
Commissioner Onishi?
Aye.
Commissioner De Silva?
Aye.
Commissioner Bennett? Okay, we're gonna wait. Commissioner Kehokalole. Commissioner Kehokalole.
Aye.
Commissioner Lum. Commissioner Lum.
Aye.
Commissioner Bennett. Commissioner Bennett.
Aye.
Commissioner
Aye.
Hussey. Commissioner Hussey.
Aye.
And we'll go ahead and try again for Commissioner Bennett.
Kalamai, I thought you said Benham. Aye.
Mahalo. Okay, our minutes have been adopted. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and move on to agenda item number 4, our permitted interactions pursuant to Act 103, Session Laws of Hawaii 2021. I think there were admin committee meetings that happened, or meeting that happened, and so minutes have been, or our notes from that meeting has been submitted. And then we'll also cover that in agenda item number 5 today. Were there any other permitted interactions? Okay, thank you, commissioners. Okay, moving on, we're gonna go ahead and move on to agenda item number 5. And I'm gonna go ahead and turn over the time to Commissioner Ani Benham to lead our discussion before we head over and do executive session like we had talked about.
Aloha, commissioners. The administrative committee was invited by NAHA to interview the finalists for the festival director position. You have our minutes in your packet, and I hope you had an opportunity to review it. Because it was NAHA hosted and facilitated, I would turn it over to Director Malia Sanders, who I believe will take you, Chair Ka'ana'ana, and the rest of the commissioners into executive session. Is this where I say, Margaret, that I will be recusing myself from that conversation?
Sorry. Yes, you can. You can say that anytime. Why don't you go ahead?
Okay, so I will be recusing myself from executive session for both the discussion and any recommendations that you make to Director Sanders. Also, let's see.
Sorry. I will also be recusing myself from discussion and from participating in any votes.
Thank you, commissioners. Anything else for the meeting notes from the admin committee as part of our permitted interactions?
No.
Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to enter into executive session.
So moved.
Or
Second.
Jamie, you get the language. I think there's language we gotta use.
Yes, Chair, I'll move for the commission to enter into an executive meeting to consider the hire or evaluation of an officer or employee, where consideration of matters affecting privacy will be involved, or to consult with the commission's attorney on questions and issues pertaining to the board's powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and liabilities pursuant to sections 92-5A, 2, and 4 Hawaii revised statutes.
I have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I'm gonna go ahead and conduct a roll call vote for us to move into executive session. Margaret, does everybody vote on going into executive session?
You do not need Commissioner Sala or Benham to vote on that because
Okay.
they're not going to go in.
Okay,
But make sure you need at least 5 though. You're gonna.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so chair is gonna go ahead and vote aye. Commissioner Bento? Commissioner Bento?
Aye. I unmuted. Aye.
Perfect. Commissioner Hussey?
Aye.
Commissioner Hussey? Commissioner Kehokalole?
Aye.
Commissioner Onishi?
Aye.
Commissioner De Silva?
Aye.
And Commissioner Lum?
Aye.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and move into executive session. Members, you have the separate Zoom link for the executive session. Ilihia, please go ahead and put up our notice for members that are staying here in this main meeting room, and I will see you folks on the other side. Awesome. We got the recording back. I think we got a few more commissioners coming back. I think this is everybody except for Commissioner Bento, I believe we're waiting for. I don't know if she was going to come back. Maybe. Anybody know? Did anybody? I thought she was. No? Okay.
Kalani,
Yeah,
let me send her the link one more time.
perfect. Let me go ahead and do this. And I don't know if I can. I'm just going to make this up. Can I call a recess for us? 3-minute bio break for everybody. That was just an executive session. And we'll reconvene here at, let's just say, 4:12. Is that enough time? Okay, 4:12. See you guys back here in a few. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. We're all here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and reconvene this meeting after our brief recess and after our executive session. It's 4:13 p.m. Going to go ahead and move on to agenda item number 6 for a discussion and action possibly regarding the main festival village. And so I'm going to actually turn over this portion of the conversation to Vice Chair Salah for her update after meeting with UH.
Hello, everyone. I had a meeting with President Lassner's office last week, and we did discuss having the main festival village and performance stage at UH. So we did come up with sort of they gave us one basic option, and that would be Andrews Amphitheater and then the adjacent, what they call Legacy Walk. Because I know prior to that, our idea was to have it on McCarthy Mall, which is sort of a little bit farther into campus from where Andrews is. So they have had in the past student services events with up to 25 to 30 sort of separate booths. So that's what they've given us. Legacy Path is essentially right adjacent to Andrews Amphitheater, right across the parking. So it makes a lot of sense for us. I think there's some infrastructure issues that that we're going to have to tackle, but our next step is that we will be meeting with the UH Manoa cabinet, and we'll start getting into the details with all the people who are going to operationalize. But that's it. So that'll be the site.
Awesome. And I just want to make sure I'm clear. So it's along Dole, right? And so the Legacy Walk is where?
It's sort of that the asphalt sort of two-way sidewalk that goes adjacent to I don't even know what the name of this building is. Krause Hall and past Krause building, and it goes sort of right in front of Campus Center. It's that whole circle.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Awesome. Members, any questions, discussion?
I guess I'm interested in hearing from any of the FestPAC veterans, whether that's appropriate size. Just that walk up. I'm very familiar with that area, having spent maybe 10 years at UH altogether. So I'm curious.
I'm not a veteran, but I have an idea. So I just pull it up on Google Maps myself. I don't know, it feels to me a lot like the Alawai Promenade issue we had, where I just don't know if the space for it is enough. And I don't know how far in, right? Because that's where like got Korea Road and like there's that Bachman place on the other side, and like, so I just don't know logistics wise like how much space there actually is for some of that, because that's opposite Richardson, right? Like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it's great when you would come up in the parking lot between Richardson, both sides, you go across, and that sort of that first big circle area all the way up to Campus Center in between Andrews and Krause Hall. It's that big circle area.
Okay, got it. Hey, we could put lunch in the dining hall at Campus Center.
And luckily, we're sort of in the shoulder area, right? The time that the festival is not smack dab in the middle of either summer session. So they were positive about that. Not to say they're closing off anything, but this is where they want to hone in on with Manoa Cabinet. Not to say McCarthy Mall is off the table, but I think I agree with them that proximity would be better right there, you know, rather than getting people lost going into McCarthy and wandering into other buildings and, you know, but that's something we can explore because at least they're on the table now and they're ready to move.
Could we use like classrooms in Kuykendall maybe as like staging rooms or like?
Well, President wasn't super jazzed about that, but the people who are helping were actually like, well, why don't we just do more stuff there? So we'll get the okay from him and then move into it with the operational people, because I don't think that's off the table.
Because I was just thinking Sakamaki is right there too, right?
There's a ton of stuff.
Mr. Bento, yep.
Can I share some, Mana'o? I recently participated pre-COVID in an event there where we did perform at Andrews Amphitheater, and Commissioner De Silva was also part of the group that performed, and they did open up some classrooms in Kuykendall for us to have as our each individual's hollow staging area. What is positive about that, the idea of usage of room, is because it's going to be, if you think 27 delegations, room and COVID mitigation plan, which I think we should really still have in the considerations. And when I think about that, what I go back to in my head is, you know, pre 9/11, we could see our family off at the airport gate, literally, and wave to them through the window and then watch the plane go away. And as soon as 9/11 happened, that all changed. And even though 9/11, essentially it kind of closed out and there was no more 9/11, that plan never changed. We still have those things in place. And so in my mind, if we're being really akamai about the way we're planning, then I like that option of having a chance to isolate and individualize the delegations in a really clean and clear way, especially those that are performing on the Andrews stage, if that's the main village, and then that becomes the main festival village staging area. So just little things to think about in that terms.
Senator Keokolole?
I guess the reason I bring it up is if the legacy walk, I guess the lawn area is of sufficient size, it seems to me like that would be a really nice location because it is the most easily accessible piece of grass at the University of Hawaii at Manoa campus, hands down. Right next to that amphitheater venue, across the street from parking, with a driveway that traverses all the way around that thing right on Dole Street, and there's classrooms on both sides. And although I think probably it would warrant maybe an additional conversation, you know, the law school is very well situated to handle any sort of, ancillary, I think, receptions or events, because we have had conversations about other governmental delegations and things like that. It is a very appropriate venue for those types of things, although that's, a secondary, I think, item to the festival program itself, right?
We save a ton of money on buses. They can walk just from their dorm, right? Commissioner Benham.
MOCA of the area, there's access as well that you could be dropping off and, picking off supplies and whatnot. You wouldn't stop on Dole. There is a back entrance where it's a lot of supplies and stuff. And I don't know if you all recall some time back when Manoa hosted lunch wagons by Kraus Hall, they had that little circle, and that was a great place for lunch wagons. I believe they do still have one that's sometimes parked right on Mocha side of the Legacy Walk, near to the beautiful outdoor plaza for the student center as well. So you've got a lot of access over there. Kraus Hall is also a great place with spaces for what Commissioner Bento talked about as well.
I also wonder too, right? And I'm just kind of thinking out loud, and I don't know what they'll allow, but I mean, we've got that entire Clarence T.C. Ching complex with new bleachers. Like, there's all kinds of stuff on the Makai side of the parking structure for things if we need it as well. Just to
Yeah. Also, you have the music facility, and I will say that on campus, the supporters for this, many of them are coming from the music department. So you have that right at the corner, right, of university. I will let you know that I don't think that Chingfield was on the list of possibilities.
Okay.
But you do have the law school and you have the music people. They're all gung-ho for it.
I mean, we kind of have them in Clum Gym.
The grass is more real in Clum Gym.
What are the downsides to it?
Well, it was made clear that UH cannot lose money on this, so we will have to be putting in, a fair amount of maybe infrastructural improvements, restrooms, kind of, prep things that we need. So just that's probably for us the biggest. They did discuss maybe a parking hike so that, offset. I'm not sure. Again, it was just sort of the operations people are not in there yet, but they're adamant about they just can't take any losses on this event. So we're going to have to help them with that.
It's an investment. We're the state. We're one family. Commissioner Onishi.
Yes, Commissioner Sala, was there any discussion about if we do hold the festival village there, about sales? Because I know that was a concern.
Yeah, so they that's the plan to discuss with the Manoa cabinet is, what areas can we use, what can we do where, but he didn't seem to be really concerned about that, like sales were not off the table. So I said, okay, that's good, because that's going to be a major issue for us if we can't sell.
I think that's why we're recommending Legacy Walk, that particular area. So as you know, that there are some areas that are ceded lands and some that are not. So we need to keep that in mind.
Just another thought, and again, like, I don't know what's appropriate and what's allowable. I'm just asking questions because there's a bunch of stuff on campus generally, right? And so I'm trying to remember, it was like behind Hawaii Hall, and then like architecture, that big area. Is that another possibility potentially, or?
No, in a short answer, no.
Okay. Got it. What about like some of the space at campus center? Would they allow us to use some of the space within campus center?
I mean, that's not off the table because they already, let that space out to other organizations. So I think that's another, we could work that out.
Okay. Other members?
I just have one more thought, and not to throw a wrench, but just for me to get clarity around knowing that we have monies encumbered at the convention center. If we're moving the focal point of the festival to this other venue, how are we fiduciarily being responsible to the monies encumbered by the convention center. I just want to make sure that because we know this is going to go to audit at some point, that we are taking care of our fiduciary duties as well. And could some of that money, would that also include, I don't know, maybe moving some of that money elsewhere? I'm not sure how it works.
Yeah, no, thanks for the question. I'll take the first stab at it. We cannot move the money. The money is already contracted and encumbered with the contractor to the convention center for the event, and we have an event contract in place. So moving the money is not a possibility. I will say though that, however, that the funds that are encumbered there are intended to cover our costs while we're in the building. So if there, for example, we have to host the VIP reception, right, which is a seated plated dinner for a large group, that would come out of that funding. If there were any AV needs within the building for the duration of the festival, that's what that funding would also go to cover those kind of things, or any F&B costs at the center. So I don't think we'll have a problem spending what's encumbered, to be completely honest. I think even with the convention center rent being waived because it's a state facility and HTA and all of that stuff, I think we're still going to eat into the funds that we have there, not only for the rent, which is at cost, but everything else that we're going to need to do there. Screens, audio, all that kind of stuff as well. Commissioner De Silva.
Thank you, Chair. Being outside, having the opportunity to be outside for me is number one. And if this is the only place that we can have it, then we'll make it. We'll figure out how to make it work. I am a little concerned that it's small, but if there is no other option, then there is no other option. If there's a possibility of somehow, adding another section somewhere close by, that would give us a little more room, especially with the COVID protocols that Commissioner Bento is talking about, that I agree to 100%. One of my biggest worries in this is that delegations are going to go home that have been exposed to COVID. That's one of my biggest. And maybe we're going to have smaller delegations because it's going to be their fear too. We don't know. But I think as much as if we are going to have the Festival Village at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, great. And there are lots of facilities there to use. But remember that if we use those facilities, that's additional cost. So I would suggest we concentrate just the Festival Village at UH Manoa, maybe use, some of the other venues that are not duplicated at the convention center, but really pull everybody to the convention center for the theater, for the culinary, for the, all of the other things that are going to happen, the displays, the exhibits, the symposiums, and try to have, and maybe even like a fashion show, try to have as many activities at the convention center where our monies are already encumbered, and not as easy as it would be to look at UH, because they have everything we would need to. But then if we have money already at convention center, go there first, and then use Manoa for the things that we can't get at convention center until, just so that the money is all balanced out. That's just my suggestion. Thank you.
Commissioner Benham.
I would agree with Commissioner De Silva on that. And also, I do recall that we had discussed beyond the Festival Village at UH West Oahu and the Convention Center for a variety of panels and other kinds of presentations. We did talk about having opportunities to use venues on in different places on island, so that this doesn't become a Honolulu-centric activity. And I think if we do that, then we would reach out to more of the outdoor places for a variety of other kinds of activities.
Mahalo for sharing that. I absolutely do understand that, because we were working with other venues with the previous iteration of things happening. So I don't think that the working with other venues is all off of the table, because we absolutely want to make sure that our Oahu community at large has access to the festival, and by means of either having venues that are perhaps out in the country in the more rural areas, so people don't have to get on a freeway to get to that, for sure. It's just that concern, making sure that we we remember that we do have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that we're using the monies appropriately, and that we're utilizing the monies where it's encumbered already, for sure. So mahalo for your folks' answers, because it did help me to kind of feel a lot more at ease about those kinds of issues for my own self. So mahalo.
Commissioner De Silva.
Thanks, Chair. The other thought that I had is the decentralization of the festival, I think, is really important for us in Hawaii, especially because if we get everybody in one place for too long, that's when trouble can happen. If there are different places for them to go and move and see things, and that'll also, when they shift venues, they're going to be attracted to seeing other things outside of what the festival's offering. If we just put everything on campus, then people are just going to go there and that's all they're going to do. And that's not really what we want. So I think everybody's saying that, but it just kind of, as everybody was talking, it just kind of went aha in my brain. So mahalo.
Yeah, I think I would also add, right, like the more we get the delegations out and about and around for smaller one-off sort of satellites, to me, it enriches their experience, because that's part of this too, right? Like, what opportunities are we affording them to sort of, so if they're the Malihini and we're the Kama'aina, where are we taking them to show them ourselves? And that's a piece of this too. I think for a long time, this commission has been so concerned with the logistics of a venue and a festival that we got really stuck in the place to come to be the magnet, and less about the interaction and creating that fertile ground of interaction that I think is really what is a hallmark of the festival, are those interactions. And yeah, of course, we're going to have to fundraise like heck to make it work. But I can just imagine, say, a delegation from New Caledonia going to Molokai and seeing a local out there and spending time with them and going, this is how you guys farm fish. Wow, I didn't even think about that, right? Or, hey, we do this too, right? Like those kind of moments. How do we make sure that as we think about our planning, that we, as a commission, set those objectives so that the implementation later can achieve that stuff? So yeah, I just kind of wanted to voice that. Commissioner Keokalole.
Well, so I think that having a central sort of hub that is as accessible as this UH proposed area will make planning those other things so much easier. Where the delegates can walk to the main village and people from across Oahu can come. They already got to pay pretty expensive parking at UH, so we can have discussions about the parking, but they can come and park, right? That's going to be a real challenge at any other festival location in Honolulu. So having accessibility for people to come there, for the delegates to go there and back to where they're staying, I think will hopefully, in theory, make it easier for us to then move to being creative and expensive in the other experiences.
I like how you put creative and expensive in the same line. The other thing too, right? And, Auntie, I'm going to have to lean on you for this, right? But when I think about what would distinguish the Hawaii festival experience, it has been my experience growing up that we start whatever we start together, and we usually start with pule first, right? And so maybe one of the interesting things that we can work into this festival, since everybody's staying at one place and the housing isn't distributed all over, what if we all met at Andrews Amphitheater at whatever time AM to pule to start the day, and then send everybody off? is that something that we want to build into the festival for our own Hawaiian experience and our own Hawaiian protocol as we think about how we start and end our day, or we start and end our activities, and that's part of the experience. And does Andrews afford us that opportunity to do something like that?
That's a really good idea, Kalani. And I also see it as to offer it, and you know, whoever shows up shows up. It's also a way to get more halau or performing groups to start the day, to start with a Hawaiian experience every morning. I mean, at least to be offered that, where you could, everybody would have an opportunity to see something of the Hawaiian culture and to hear the language, and to, you know, just even if it's just a short 10 or 15 minutes, I think that would be a nice thing that we could offer, because in every other festival I've been to, they've had to use several schools on many sites, sometimes as many as 8 or 9 different sites, in order to have enough space to house all of the delegates. We have never had delegates all stay at one location ever in the last five festivals. So this is going to be something new, which might present new challenges for us, but we won't worry about that. We'll just have to deal with it when it happens. I like that idea.
We did say, what was our theme this time around?
Ho'olulahui. Uh-oh.
Other mana'o.
Can I move that we, can I make a motion to accept the University of Hawaii Manoa campus somewhere for a festival village?
It's been moved. Do we have a second? We need a second to keep discussion going.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Members, discussion.
I can support, oh, sorry.
No, of course, go ahead.
I can support the motion, knowing that continuing planning will occur to ensure that all of the objectives, from safety to mobility to programming, continue, so that we can ensure that it addresses all of those concerns.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Hussey. Other members?
Yeah, I think that it seems like things still need to be worked out with the university, but I think at least this kind of hopefully brings the commission to a point where we're saying, okay, let's move ahead with this, finding out more of how we can make this work right using UH Manoa. So.
Other members?
So perhaps what you want to do is to wordsmith the motion that, you know, we approve the continued conversation or deliberation, or whatever word works, with the University of Hawaii system and University of Hawaii Manoa to hold Festival Village, you know, on their campus. Just so that, I mean, you were saying yes, go ahead, but what we're saying is that we still need to kind of work that through.
Right. So actually, if the motion I would like to make, if I can retract what I said, is that we consider University of Hawaii Manoa campus as our first choice, which is what we did with all the other venues. All we did was vote on what our first choice was. So that's going to be my motion, that we consider this for our first choice.
Can I make a recommendation to the maker of the motion to add the backup? So in all of the other venues, we had first choice, second choice. So my ask of the maker of the motion would be UH Manoa campus would be first choice primary, and then Magic Island Ala Moana as second choice. Commissioner Benham.
Yes.
I think what Commissioner Benham was bringing up, though, is that we're still in conversations So I'm not sure that we can say that we want it to be our primary if there's not all those other conversations yet to be had.
The
Correct?
only thing though is we did that for all the other venues. We said, we like this one the primary, this one the alternate, go figure it out. If the primary doesn't work out, come back.
Okay.
So I think there's still room. The way I understood it to mean it, Commissioner De Silva, was that like the other venues, we said primary first choice, go explore, due diligence, figure it out. If it doesn't, then you have your plan B ready so that we don't get bogged down procedurally here or meetings wise here, but not that it's like set and if something comes up, we're stuck.
Perfect.
Exactly. That was my intention, that we follow the same process as we did for the other venues.
I'll jump in here just to remind us all about Ala Moana Magic Island. I actually had Deputy Director of Parks here earlier. She had to leave. She's gonna be coming to all the meetings and jumping on the venue subcommittee to help us out, just so that we are sure. Ala Moana Kaka'ako is not a definite no, but it's gonna be a pretty big stretch for us to get it for that length of time, according to Parks. So let's just keep that in mind as we list it on, the second choice list.
No, thank you for that reminder. I'm gonna sort of myself here, only because to me, it's close to the convention center and this is a festival that is unlike any other. And I think we can make that case to neighborhood boards and community users that this is that special, that this is why it is an outlier from the usual, because it is an international convening. And so I'd be willing to go to those neighborhood boards with you, shoulder to shoulder.
Awesome.
If it came to
Me
that.
too.
Yeah.
Me too. And my preference actually would make that number one and make UH as our backup. Because I would like, we don't know. Yeah, it might be like a very long shot, but if we don't try, we're not going to know. And we have enough time right now to try and make our case. And if by some magic, they say Magic Island is going to be magical and we get a yes, then let's do it. It's close to the convention center. It has a lot more space. We can have better COVID protocols. And we've had other events there. So even though we have to bring in bathrooms and infrastructure kind of things, we know how to do it. We know how to run the traffic. We know, people can park at the convention center. Anyway, I'm preaching to the choir.
My recommendation is we stick with what we got. UH Manoa primary, that is a secondary only if we don't work out Manoa. And just if there's any other big discussion we can, but if not, anything else? Okay, hearing none. I'm going to go ahead and roll call vote. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair?
Aye.
Commissioner Bento?
Aye.
Commissioner Hussey?
Aye.
Commissioner Kehokalole?
Aye.
Commissioner Onishi?
Aye.
Commissioner Ani Benham?
Aye.
Commissioner Lum?
Aye.
Commissioner De Silva?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Thank you to our venues chair and our vice chair for that. I'm going to go ahead and move on in our agenda. We're on agenda item number 7. Is there any public testimony on any of the items that were discussed today? If there is, or you would like to testify, please go ahead and unmute and let us know. Turn on your camera. Going once, twice, third time's a charm. Moving on. Any announcements, commissioners? Okay, hearing none. Moving on to agenda item number 9. Next meeting, November 8th, same time, same place. We will need executive session in that meeting as well as a notice to the public and members, just as a heads up. So for the November 8th meeting of the commission at 2:30 p.m. Okay, if not, by consensus, can we agree and move and second and vote yes on adjourning? Okay, I think we're all good. All right, thanks commissioners. Have a wonderful rest of your day and we'll see you folks soon. Aloha.
Mahalo. Aloha.